client is said to be trustless. Transactions don't rely on a trusted third party to arbitrate transactions. You have cryptographic proof instead of trust. And what if you could do that, however, with identity? Joining us now to discuss is Parallel Markets co-founder and CEO Tony Peccatiello and president and head of partnerships Suzanne Elovic. Welcome to the show, Tony and Suzanne. Thanks for joining us at I.D.E.A.S. So this is a really interesting concept. So maybe first you could illustrate the problem, especially with banks or with financial institutions, which you deal a lot with, in terms of KYC, know your customer, and AML, anti-money laundering concerns, and how digital identity shifts between the two and how you could find a solution.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. So I'll just kind of start off with the traditional financial space, right? So every bank, every broker-dealer, every online platform, a lot of the DeFi protocols that are onboarding people, even the crypto exchanges, whenever they're onboarding their customers, a part of, whether that's a natural person or a business entity, a part of that process is the know your customer check and anti-money laundering check. So making sure that the people who a bank is onboarding or an exchange is onboarding is who they say they are, first and foremost, and that once they've identified that the person or business is who they say they are, that is not a person or business that they should not be doing business with. For example, if they were on an OFAC sanctions list. So right now, every single bank, every single broker-dealer, every exchange is doing basically the same onboarding for every single customer. So if you're a customer at two banks or two exchanges, you're going to go through that process twice. Exactly. And you're basically going to be submitting the same information. They're going to be doing the same sort of checks on the back end. And when you start thinking about those processes, they're really kind of data-driven processes, right? So the client has information that needs to be passed over to the institution, that needs to be checked and then maybe monitored against sanctions. And whenever you see sort of a repeat data problem across businesses and customers that just want to work together, that's a place to be building software.
Got it. So there's a lot of waste, there's a lot of cost inefficiencies in the financial system. So Suzanne, how does Parallel Markets solve this with creating digital identity?
Yeah, well, it's actually really exciting because what we're doing is we're gathering that information once, we're verifying it, we maintain it, and then we keep it up to date. So you're able to take that same identity profile that you've created and bring it with you to the next place you want to go. Financial institutions are able to leverage all of the work that's already been done. And so by doing this, we achieve a few things, right? We eliminate redundancy, which is really, I think, critical to getting more efficiency in the process. And we also eliminate a lot of the pain for customers of having to go through this process over and over again each place they go. But then what's really exciting about it is then you can start to leverage all of the work and review and analysis that's already been done so that financial institutions have an added level of safety and security that they don't currently have, of knowing that what they're doing and what they're relying on is the same information that a lot of other financial institutions have.
And you're actually using this technology now with current financial institutions, and what's the experience like?
Absolutely. So we're live with over 70 financial institutions, from funds to exchanges to broker-dealers. We've onboarded tens of thousands of both natural persons and business entities at this point, and I'd like to think that the experience has been pretty good.
Well, that's interesting. So, I mean, they can go from financial institution with their digital identity and, one KYC AML process, and that's it? I mean, Absolutely. It must be eliminating a lot of costs and fees. Maybe you could illustrate, how much is being saved here?
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about, sometimes weeks of time when things need to go through additional review, particularly with business entities, where a business entity is complicated because it has control persons and beneficial owners that oftentimes have to be checked as part of this KYC process. So what we're able to do is sort of deliver in a permissioned way, so the user, the ultimate holder of that identity, is directing Parallel to share their information with the financial institution that they want to do business with.
Does this catch on to in the retail level, when you're going to a bank?
That's the hope. Absolutely.
Okay. And I guess the other issue I'd have is, what about privacy? Like, do you control your data when you're going from bank to bank to bank, or are they, having greater insights into, what you're doing, where you're banking at, et cetera?
Absolutely. So a very, kind of important mission of the company is to put people and businesses in control of their data. So everything is very permission driven. So every business or natural person who is electing to share their information via Parallel knows exactly what they're sharing, with who they're sharing, and then can decide to turn that off if they want to eliminate that relationship. So instead of sending your passport or LLC agreement over email to a number of different places, you sort of securely share it and then know who you've shared it with.
You mentioned your passport, so maybe you could tell me what the passport is, and you aim to make it easier for customers to invest across these traditional banking and Web3 platforms. Explain, how that works exactly.
Absolutely. It's a great question, and you can think about our business in sort of two lanes. One is this kind of identity underwriting side of the business, so how do we do KYC and AML in a rigorous way that will satisfy regulators and our partners. The other is this idea of expression, so how do we share that identity. In the traditional financial world, that means APIs and dashboards where those financial institutions can get that information. So that's part of that passport. In the Web3 world, we have a non-transferable token that we're able to mint to a wallet. So it's a soul-bound token that a person or business can get minted to their wallet after they go through the identity verification process. So what the passport looks like and how it operates depends on the party that the user or person is trying to do business with.
And the information sent is one way. I mean, I guess the concern out there is that a government or third-party institution would be able to, access this information from us. And, in Web 2, we've seen these companies collect our data and use them to influence us. And I guess in Web 3, we want to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, that's absolutely a critical concern for us, and I think one of the things that's so exciting about where we're going with Web3 is creating an identity token that enables access through smart contracts to anybody who has an ID token. So that the counterparty that you're doing business with has been screened, is not subject to sanctions, could be an accredited investor if that's an element that you opt in for, but the actual identity of that individual or that company is still only maintained at Parallel, and so it enables transparency and safety in the transaction while still preserving some of the anonymity and privacy that's so important for Web3.
And who's the agency that is saying, oh, this person is good to go, their KYC checks out? I guess there's a centralized agency that's you.
It's a great question. Yeah. So to some extent, we do this, right? And then, given the current regulation, and it was great to hear Congressman Himes talking about potential, more transparency or clarity coming in the next couple years. But every financial institution ultimately has to make a decision for themselves on who they're onboarding as a client. So we play, a role, like a very, important role of collecting and verifying and maintaining information. But ultimately, whoever is doing business with a person also, ultimately has to make the determination.